In the glow of yesterday's press conference from Penguins president of hockey operations, Kyle Dubas, the finalists for General Manager of the Year were released, but Kyle Dubas's name was not among them. So we asked the question today, was he snubbed by the voters?
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am one of your hosts, Patrick Damp. You can follow me across all social media platforms at Synonym for Wet. Joined as always by the one and only Hunter Hodes. You can follow him on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Before we jump into today's show, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. More about them later. Bill Zonnon lit the lamp in his first professional game last night with the baby Penguins. The Nailers are going to have to come back home in their playoff series, and we're going to continue our season in review series today with Parker Wotherspoon. Before we get into all of that, though, here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins, I have got a simple question to ask my pal Hunter Hodes, and that is, does the Council of Hockey Men hate Kyle Dubas? Hunter, you wrote about this today for the Hockey News, saying that Kyle Dubas was snubbed as a finalist for General Manager of the Year. And while I am mostly in agreement with you, he has been on an absolute heater, especially this season. I do still believe that the actual General Manager of the Year award is that thing they give out at the end of the season known as the Stanley Cup. But all of that said, I will give you the floor and you can make your case.
Yeah, I'm not going to be like super heated or anything here. I'm just confused as to how he wasn't at least a finalist. I mean, I was talking about him being the runaway favorite for GM of the Year, considering the heater that he has been on for the last year plus. We can probably say the last 18 to 24 months, to be honest. And I'm not trying to disrespect any of the three finalists. Billy Guerin makes the Quinn Hughes trade. Pretty ballsy trade. Had to give up a lot to get Quinn Hughes. Still, really nice move. He's gotten the Wild to the second round of the playoffs. They had a great regular season. That one I am okay with. Pat Verbeek, the Ducks break their long playoff streak. He does a good job with drafting and developing some of these younger pieces. He brings in some of these veterans as well over the last year. I can understand why there. The one that I don't really fully understand is Chris McFarland. Congratulations, man. You have a great roster headlined by Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Gabe Landeskog, Marty Necas. You're just filling out the depth there. And hey, the Nazem Kadri trade was pretty good. They made a couple of other nice moves at the deadline this year and during the season too. But that team, even before like the Kadri move, for example, Pat, that was already a juggernaut. They were probably going to win the President's Trophy without Nazem Kadri coming over from the Calgary Flames. So I think that's where I would put Kyle Dubas in the Chris McFarland spot. I would have him as the other finalist there. It's just confusing to me that he was not named a finalist for this award, considering that every move that he made over the last year, starting with free agency, going into the trades, whether it's offseason or in-season trades, hiring Dan Muse, has basically been A+. And I feel like he should be a finalist for just all those moves alone. That's the way I see it. But I guess all the general managers that vote on the award, plus the little small committee of executives and media members, it's like a very small committee. It's like, I think, five media members each, five NHL executives each, that vote along with the GMs. I guess they all didn't see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm going to do here in response is kind of me talking myself into and out of something, because I have seen the narrative a lot that there is kind of a dislike of Kyle Dubas among a lot of hockey people because he's not your typical NHL executive. You look at a lot of these guys who are NHL GMs, who are coaches, scouts, whatever. They played in the NHL or they're from a first or second family of hockey. They've got some sort of background in the NHL in some way or another, which I understand that a lot of that is them saying, hey, this is our club. You ain't in it, whatever, whatever. But then you also look at Kyle Dubas's path. It's not like they went to some law firm or some accounting firm and said, hey, you're good with numbers, nerd. Come build a roster for us. He worked his way up from being a stick boy in the Sioux to becoming an NHL general manager. He worked under Lou Lamoriello. He worked under Brendan Shanahan. Like, those are two of the most hockey men to ever hockey men. So I don't quite understand why there's this purported resentment of him because he's not a traditional hockey guy. But I will say I'm with you. Two of the three in Billy Guerin and Pat Verbeek are very much deserving of that nom, because we talked about it off mic a couple of days ago that Minnesota was kind of on the periphery of the Quinn Hughes sweepstakes. Everyone kind of went, hey, Minnesota might be able to get him, but it's probably going to be your typical, the Vegas Golden Knights pull a rabbit out of a hat and find a way to get him. But everybody thought he was going to New Jersey. And then out of nowhere, Guerin swoops in and they get Quinn Hughes. And that really put a rocket on their back. And then Verbeek done a really good job turning the Ducks around from where they were just a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
He's made some really savvy moves, drafted really well, developed that team really well. And here they are in the second round having a go of it. So those two are deserved. McFarland, I kind of look at it like I get it, but I also don't, because I agree with you in a sense that you had a great team already and then you just kind of filled in the margins. But we've also seen in the last 10 to 15 years, these really top heavy teams, they've got this great top line talent. And then the general manager kind of fails at giving them a supporting cast. But that one, I think, is the wild card. You could put Dubas there. You could put Tulsky there.
Yep.
I think he kind of got the pat on the head, you won the President's Trophy nomination.
Yeah, I mean, still, for Chris McFarland, I do think he is a solid GM. I just wouldn't give him, GM of the year, finalists over someone who has been in charge of a team that's been going through a retool/rebuild on the fly. The expectations were literally in the gutter for this team going into the season. A lot of people had them in bottom 5, bottom 10 in the standings, and Kyle Dubas was able to take that and basically build a playoff team from it and literally exceed all expectations. I value that a lot more than someone who, you already had a great team. Good job for filling in the margins. You were still going to win the President's Trophy anyway. At least that's the way I see it. I do understand your point where GMs have failed putting in the depth pieces around some star-studded teams. We've seen it before in Edmonton, for example. Heck, even the early 2010s Penguins teams, after they won the 2009 Cup, those teams were pretty top-heavy at times as well, Pat. So I understand your point there, but overall, with McFarland comparing it to Kyle Dubas, I still just don't think it's really close. That's the way I feel about it, though. And you are right about Dubas's background. There are some people out there that still think, oh, yeah, he's like this big numbers guy. And sure, he uses the numbers. They have an analytics team, but he came up via scouting. Like, that is his bread and butter. He loves going on the road. He loves scouting players. That is where he made his name before rising through the ranks, getting promoted in Toronto all those times, and then eventually coming here, becoming the president and the general manager. At his core, he is a scout. And now, he does use data. He 100% does. He was mentioning it during his presser on Tuesday, talking about how the Penguins were bottom 10 in the league in expected goals against and actual goals against for the way they defend in their own zone. But at his core, he is a scout guy. He has always been like that.
He really has. And this is the last point I'll make on saying I agree with you in totality that he got snubbed. He hires a first-year coach. Mm-hmm. They get back to the playoffs, and that first-year coach gets nominated for the Jack Adams. Like, I don't think
it's Dan both for me. They both did a great job. Dan Muse deserves that nomination, and I think Kyle Dubas deserves his own nomination too.
And that's what I was building towards, is that Dan Muse doesn't get nominated for the Jack Adams if he doesn't get hired by Kyle Dubas and has himself put in the position to take a team that nobody had any expectations for. Then they go to the playoffs. So it's puzzling to me, but at the end of the day, you listen to what Kyle Dubas had to say on Tuesday. This guy doesn't care about getting nominated for general manager of the year. I highly doubt Dan Muse cares about getting nominated for the Jack Adams. These guys have a goal in mind. It's to get this team back to contention, not to fill their trophy case with individual awards. They want to win a Stanley Cup before they do any of that. So bit of a snub for Kyle Dubas, but we persist on anyway. That is going to do it for our opening segment. When we come back, a lot of action in the minor leagues in the Penguins organization. Bill Zonnon, huge goal. Wheeling Nailers dropped 2 straight. We're going to talk about all of it when we come back right after this. But we've got a couple of sponsors to get to, starting with Kalshi. The hunt for the Stanley Cup is on, and now you can trade every game on Kalshi. On Kalshi, you can trade every single playoff game, every series, the conference finals, and the championship. Tonight, in Game 5 of the Minnesota-Colorado series, Minnesota is trading at 35%, and Colorado is trading at 66%. That payout could be up to $152. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. As the probabilities change, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI, Kalshi, trade on anything. And we're not done. We've also got 5-Hour Energy. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all of the sugar. That's why Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy Shots bring that nostalgic flavor back to life in a whole new way. This is the classic cotton candy taste that you remember, but with a tasty caffeine boost and 0 sugar. It's quick, easy, and it satisfies that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. Always been a big fan of cotton candy ever since I was a kid, but nowadays I can't be drinking all that sugar as I try to get back in shape and while I'm always on the go. So this is a great pick-me-up, a great alternative. It's got that throwback flavor that I love so much. Bring on the sweetness with Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy Shots, available online now at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. We're back here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp with you right alongside Hunter Hodes. Before we jump back in, if you never miss an episode of Locked On Penguins, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get access to ad-free audio, our members-only Discord, and so much more. It's all built for you, our most loyal fans. Head to lockedonpodcasts.com/everydayer club to learn more. Moving right along here, Hunter, let's start taking a look down at the farm. We begin with the good, then we will pivot to the not so good. The good. The baby Penguins off to a great start in their Atlantic Division final series against the Springfield Thunderbirds. Bill Zonnon scores in his professional debut in a 2-0 victory for the baby Penguins. That goal, Hunter, though, we'll talk about the goal itself. We don't want to overreact to a tiny sample size, but here is the part that I did not see as much discussion about. Goal by Zonnon breaks a shutout streak for Springfield goaltender Georgiev Romanov of 137 minutes in 20 seconds. So not only does he score his first pro goal, he breaks an insane shutout streak for the Thunderbirds.
Yeah, Springfield has been, again, very good in these playoffs, very unexpected considering where they finished in the standings in the regular season. They go out there, they are underdogs in both of their first 2 series. They win both of those series. Now they're an underdog once again, but as we all know, Pat, they don't give a damn about that, especially after they just beat Providence in 4 games. But it took a picture-perfect move to beat him, and that's what it was from Bill Zonnon. He gets the puck right around the left circle, cuts to the front of the net, goes forehand, backhand. Beautiful move from right in front of the net. And again, I will continue to reiterate, man, his net front play is the most underrated aspect of his game. He is really good around the net front. You saw his soft hands there. The celebration afterwards was great. He was all over the ice in this game. It was a great debut from him, and I'm really excited to see what he can do for the rest of the series and potentially deeper in the playoffs as well if this team is able to win the Atlantic Division final and advance to the Eastern Conference final, and then potentially even the Calder Cup final, which would be obviously the final round of the Calder Cup playoffs. But I loved that goal. I loved his game overall. They started him in the bottom six, Pat, which not too surprised by. You're easing him in your first game. As he continues to play more, I am sure that he is going to play a bit higher up in the lineup, considering how skillful he is as a player. But everything was on display last night for how well he played. His playmaking was also really good throughout this game. I thought he skated really well. You saw the net front ability. Defensively, I thought he was in position as well. There's a really nice debut from him in his first professional game.
It was really solid. And you brought up positioning. That's kind of the thing that led to the goal. Is there was a good pinch by Alexiev. He made the right decision at the right moment to pinch. And we talked about this with Zonnon's comments the other day about how when Kessel tried to sit down with him to say, hey, here's the system you need to know and what you got to do. And he said, no, I've seen the way you guys play. I've watched the film. I know what to do. Showed up in his goal because when Alexiev made the pinch, he's right there for puck support. Once Alexiev wins the battle, he takes the risk to go into the zone, and then he gets the scoring opportunity and makes no mistake about it. Helps put the baby Penguins up 1-0 in this series, which is huge for them as they continue to push forward in the Calder Cup playoffs. Love to see that from him. Obviously going to keep an eye on everything they do. Now,
I do want to also point out before you get to Wheeling, Tanner Howe made it 2-0 last night. Really nice goal on a breakaway. Top cheese. Definitely make sure you don't forget about him is what I'm trying to say, because has that ratty element. I think he could play really well if he hits a ceiling and, a middle six, top nine role for the Penguins potentially down the line. But I like him quite a bit. And guess who had the shutout, Pat? Sergei Murashov, his first of the playoffs, and he was very good once again in this game. Continues to show why there are so many people excited about him for his NHL future.
Yeah, and the best thing about the Tanner Howe breakaway goal was the move itself in the goal was fantastic, but the breakaway itself was born of nothing but hard work. He wins a puck battle, wins a race, skates harder than the guy coming after him, gets the separation. There was nothing too pretty about it. It was a lot of hard work. Yeah, the goal was pretty, but what led to the goal was nothing but hard work. And from a player like Howe, that's the kind of game you want to see from him at any level. So that was very encouraging. Now we'll get to the bad Hunter. Wheeling drops 2 straight to the Maine Mariners in games 3 and 4. They lose 6-3 in game 3. And at one point in game 3, they were down 5-0. So that was not a great one. And then game 4, a double overtime heartbreaker, 2-1 to Maine. So that series is definitely coming back to Wheeling for game 6 this weekend, no matter what. We will see if it goes to game 7. This kind of, if without sounding too many alarm bells here, this is just kind of a series holding serve. Wheeling did really well on home ice. Now Maine has done really well on home ice. And it may be an old cliche, but they say a series doesn't start until you lose on home ice. So Nailers have a chance to do that tonight in Maine at 7 o'clock. But one of the nice little takeaways from these two games is that one of the Penguins draft picks, Gabriel Daig, did have to come in to replace Gauthier in that tough 6-3 loss. Did pretty well in relief. So once again, the Penguins' organizational strength in net continues to show.
Yeah, that at least was good, though. You don't want it to get to that point considering how awesome Taylor Gauthier has been for Wheeling once again, whether it's the regular season or the playoffs. We've all been over the numbers so far, Pat, for his in the playoffs, and he's just literally been a brick wall, really outside of the game 3 against Maine. But I felt bad for him on Tuesday just because he was doing everything in his power to give the other skaters a chance to win this game and go up 3-1 to have a chance to potentially close this out tonight, but wasn't meant to be. And now you'll have a third chance to win on the road to potentially bring this series back to Wheeling so you can close them out this weekend. I said going into these 3 games, if you can win one of them, you're in good shape because you'll be up 3-2 going back home with 2 chances to really close it out. Now, obviously you lose all 3 here. You're the one that's down 3-2 and you have to stave off elimination in your home arena before potentially playing a game 7. So this is a very pivotal game 5. I mean, every game 5 in a series where it's 2-2 is very pivotal, but this one especially is because you've lost 2 in a row on the road. You don't want to make it 3. Let's see if they can get some offense back here because that's really gone away these last couple of games after just how well they were playing structurally in all 3 zones in the first couple of games. So let's see what happens here in game 5. Curious to see how they respond. It's a quick turnaround, Pat. Double overtime game the night before, and then you have to play literally the next day.
Yeah, that's life in the ECHL.
Yeah.
I lived it, not as a player. I know, not as a player, as a staff member, but it was taxing on me as someone who was selling tickets and sending tweets. I can't imagine what it was like for someone who actually has to play in it. But if you're looking for a little bit of copium for this Wheeling series so far, the double overtime game, Gauthier bounces right back in that one, had 33 saves on 35 shots. And then on the other end of it, you look at how well Wheeling has played in 3 of the 4 games. Game 3, obviously a burn the tape kind of game. Right. You fall down 5-0. But in the 2 games that Maine, in the 1 game, I should say, that Maine has taken, it required double overtime. So you still have a little bit of an edge over this team, but you cannot let this opportunity you have tonight in game 5 slip away and give yourself 2 kicks at the can when you come back to Wheeling over the weekend and hopefully not into next week. But still, this is a gut check time for the Nailers. For the most part, the baby Penguins, they're cruising right along. They're beating the teams they should beat. The people they need to perform are performing. For Wheeling, it's a little bit of adversity. It's a little bit of a gut check. It's time for them to step up and see what they're made of. Again, game 5 is tonight at 7:00 in Portland. Game 6 will be Saturday at 7:10 in Wheeling. And then if necessary, game 7 on Monday in Wheeling, I should say. So that is going to wrap up this middle segment. When we come back, our season in review series chugs right along, and we're going to talk about one of the biggest surprises of the Penguins season, and that is defenseman Parker Wotherspoon. Stick with us. We're going to get into that when we come back right after this. But we've got one more sponsor to get to, and it is our friends at Game Time. There is nothing like seeing Stanley Cup playoff hockey live. The intensity, the rivalries, the crowd, it's just different when you're in the building. Playoffs are some of the best moments in sports, and being there in person is something that every fan should get to experience. Game Time, they make it incredibly easy to find tickets, even for those high-demand games, in just a few taps. And with the Game Time guarantee, you know you're getting 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. You guys, you listen to this show long enough, you know I'm a total shill for Game Time. I love them. I've used it for Penguins playoff tickets, WWE tickets, and yes, he's going to roll his eyes, Sabrina Carpenter tickets as well, and everything in between. The app is so easy to use. And of course, my favorite part, the upfront pricing. You're not getting hit with any of those surprise fees at checkout. You know what you're paying when you click your seats. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem that code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. We're closing out the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp, running right alongside Hunter Hodes. And because the season is over, so is Warrior Helmet Wednesday, at least until next season. It's not going away forever. Don't you worry. Warrior Helmet's coming right back next season. Instead, though, we continue our season in review series. And if you're just jumping on board with us here on Locked On Penguins, we switched it up this year. Instead of going by points or production or value, whatever metric you want to use, we're simply going by games played this season. So up next is one of the biggest surprises of the year. Defenseman Parker Wotherspoon appeared in 80 games this season with the Penguins. He was signed last offseason to a 2-year, $1 million per year deal. Ends up with 3 goals, 27 assists, 30 points. And Hunter, I think it's more than safe to say he shattered any and all expectations.
I agree. And, going into this season, he had really only played a little over 100 games in 3 seasons in the league. He then played 80 games this season, top pairing minutes basically the entire time, set career highs in goals with 3, assists for 27, and then points with 30. His career high in points before the season, Pat, came in 23-24 with the Bruins when he appeared in 41 games and only had 8 assists. He was more of a depth defenseman for the Bruins. Obviously, he had that one season with the Islanders where he only played in 12 games during the 22-23 season. But again, he was mainly used more as a depth defender. He didn't really play this far up a lineup, but he was a outstanding fit for Erik Karlsson on the top pair. Really allowed Karlsson to do his thing offensively while Wotherspoon kind of covered for him defensively. He made the right reads. He didn't aggressively pinch too much. He was very physical along the boards. He was just overall very steady on that pair. And the Penguins going into the free agency, they scouted him heavily. They felt that he was ready to potentially take a jump in terms of his minutes. And going into free agency, his underlying numbers were pretty sound, even though he had only played a little over 100 games in 3 seasons. But the Penguins said, hey, we feel like you're ready for a bigger role. And they were proven right because he was very good on the top pair. Still has a year left on his contract. I assume, just as of right now, that he is still going to be on that top pair for next season with Karlsson, unless they go out there and get a bona fide top pair guy for the left side to play with Karlsson at least for next season and then potentially just play on that pair for future seasons. But as of right now, just because of no moves have been made, I'm operating under the assumption that Wotherspoon will be there. So overall, great on the PK too, brought some snarl, really just an A season from them. I'll probably even go A+, to be honest. That's the grade I'm giving him.
I can't give him anything other than an A+, just for no other reason. The preseason expectation that we had for him, we saw he get signed, $1 million. We're thinking, he's going to be a depth guy, might be on the second or third pair. Right. He's not going to see a lot of minutes. He's not going to bring a ton to the table. And he shatters all of it. And he puts up 30 points. He's stapled to Erik Karlsson. And then what do you know? Erik Karlsson has his best season as a Penguin. And a lot of it was because it was the yin and the yang on that pairing. He was the stay-at-home guy. He was the physical player. He was the player who you could depend upon to kind of be the, maybe not babysitter for Erik Karlsson, but he was defensively responsible enough and positionally sound enough that he could let Erik Karlsson go run on the fields. He was the, better than say babysitter, he was the dog sitter. He would open the gate to the fields and just say, you go run, I'll be here. You bring me your toy when you're done. And he did great. And for what he makes and what his history was, this was an incredible overperformance. And it's hard to give him anything other than an A+.
I agree. I mean, again, he shattered all expectations coming into this season, and he went out there and performed great on the top pair. Again, awesome defensively, brought some physicality. You can argue that he was their most physical player throughout the regular season. He was good on the PK when he played there. The offense that he brought at times was very nice. He didn't really pinch that aggressively. His underlying numbers this year were really good as well. When he was on the ice, the Penguins had 52% of the shot attempts, plus 12 goal differential, 51% of the expected goals, 52% of the scoring chances, and 52% of the high danger chances. All very strong numbers this year. So early returns, at least for the full season, were great, and I'm excited to see what he can do in year 2. So A+ grade for me. That's really all I got on Wotherspoon. And I will say, Pat, just to end the show, Sidney Crosby officially going to the World Championships that was announced on Tuesday. Felt like he wasn't going to go after the preliminary roster got dropped, and Wotherspoon was on that preliminary roster. So Sid will get to team up with him once again at the World Championships. I didn't think Sid was going to go, but in the end, he's like, hey, I'm going to go for it. This will be only his 4th time representing Canada at the World Championships, though. He's been there 3 other times.
I was not surprised that he's going, because he has openly said at the stage he is in his career, to stay at his best, he's got to keep moving.
Fair.
He can't really take a lot of time off. Otherwise, he kind of starts creaking a little bit. So not totally shocked he's going. I guess this tells us his knee's feeling pretty okay.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I'm curious to see when this starts, does he let Macklin Celebrini keep the C? Or is he going to walk in and say, not yet, kiddo. This is still my team. That's going to be really interesting to see.
It'll be kind of funny if Macklin's like, okay, I'm just going to give this to you. I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm also curious, because I can see Sid being like, hey, hand that over. But I could also see Macklin being like, hey, I'll just do it without you asking me. It's okay. But,
yeah.
Hey, we'll see. At the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal.
No.
But, we'll see if he has the C and Macklin has an A, or if Macklin's just going to be like, hey, I'm going to keep it. Because I think, honestly, I don't know if Canada expected Sid to come. That's why they gave Macklin the C originally, because I think they were under the assumption that he wasn't going to go to the World Championships. But now that he is, we'll see. Not a big deal, but something to at least keep in the back burner.
We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll obviously keep you updated here on the Locked On Penguins podcast. But that is going to do it for our Wednesday edition. Hunter and I will be back with a brand new episode for you on Thursday. We'll have updates from the farm system. We'll keep our season in review series going and talk about anything that might happen between now and then. But for now, for Hunter Hodes, I am Patrick Damp. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we will talk to you once again on Thursday.